How you doing? Good, nice to meet you.
Everybody, we're here at the Portland building. About to be a hearing about clean and safe. Check the description for more info. We're also going to take a look here.
Are they going to do like a census here?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good lineup.
What's going on?
And then after that, like, go in and...
I have to leave at like 11.
Also stickers and stuff.
Yeah.
Probably come through.
Like, I don't have a website. I don't have like any domain that I purchased.
You should grab one of these. Ethan just wrote the definitive history of the PDA.
Oh, awesome.
I heard from weird that Longboard is thinking of
Amazing posters here.
like a big dog. Yeah. I don't know where. Just a Longboard. Yeah, Longboard.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it worked out that way, but like right now we only have 2 clients. One technically 3, but one's 2.
Big box.
And you're being a parent, right?
Yeah, I'm actually headed there after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any.
It's so nice to, yeah.
I would be surprised. But then again, there's also just people who are like, oh, that would be nice to bring right here, but there's not anything like that. Like, I know that was the case in Montreal.
Joining, actually streaming real time today. No delay, which is nice. So check in, see how you're doing in the chat. So what we've got planned for this today is to cover what's going on here live, and then at noon when the hearing starts, I'm gonna tune this stream into the Zoom call. Basically, this hearing is to decide whether clean and safe should still exist. And I'm sure you're about to hear a lot about the reasons why these folks think that they shouldn't. The stream's looking good. Thanks for joining, folks. Howdy. Would you like to tell my live stream a little bit about what you got going on here?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Oh, we're getting started.
We can just gather around.
We can maybe chat a little bit. Thank you, though.
So we are starting a little late, might kind of speed things up. And today we are here for the Clean and Safe 10-year renewal contract. Yeah, it's 10 years is a long time to renew a contract. I think it might be the longest contract in the city, in fact. And of course it goes to the biggest business alliance. So there's a long, long history of misjustices and all sorts of grievances against the Portland Business Alliance and what they've been doing in the city, from disrupting environmental groups from being able to help clean the river all the way to blocking the Zenith pipeline to lobbying against the interests of the public and privatizing public space. The list goes on and on, so I don't want to bore everyone with that. And although I'm sure you're going to hear about those things. And there's a great zine over there on this table that explains the history. 20 years of history of Clean and Safe. Basically just screwing over people, right? So, I'm going to get right into the speakers. Y'all excited? And the first speaker, I have the pleasure of introducing. They've been a great help over at Laurelhurst and are the director at Defense Fund, and they are, quite frankly, one of the strongest organizers around right now. So Lou, would you like to come up here?
Hey y'all, I don't have anything written, but essentially we're with a group called Fund Pdx. We're an abolitionist group in the community that focuses on the intersections of state repression. And a lot of times when people think of state repression, they think of people getting arrested, and like the way that looks like to combat is by paying bail and commissary. But there is actually a lot more that goes into state repression, including the over-policing of unhoused neighbors. And it's something that has existed since the beginning of this country's colonization, essentially. And for over 100 years, we've been seeing the exact same rhetoric from business districts to police and the city. And it exists strictly to keep the ruling class in a position of power. Those people that are the ruling class and the city work directly with the police to be able to keep oppressed communities from organizing together and from being able to make any change, and part of that is this Clean and Safe contract. And it's really interesting. One of the other days I was like scrolling on Nextdoor doing my usual like lurk thing where I watch NIMBYs that just like say terribly violent and genocidal things about houseless people. And there was a post that was almost word for word something that was written like almost 100 years ago in Seattle at these like shanty towns. And I thought that it would just be really interesting to read it and talk a little bit about the like parallels between what was written almost 100 years ago and what is still being said right now. I'll let Chef do it.
To the Honorable City Council, Seattle, the attention of the North End Progressive Club has been called to this little colony of poverty-stricken people who have built shacks on the sand at Inner Bay waterfront. It was pointed out that an unsanitary condition might exist there, and that these unsightly shacks annoyed the people who had property in the vicinity. We recognize the fact that these people have drifted in from other parts of the country, that no funds are available for other housing, that our governor has vetoed the bill which might have enabled them a chance to help themselves, that it is unlawful to shoot or drown them, but we want you to do something about it. Respectfully, May Gable Young. Request for removal of Inner Bay shacks, April 24th, 1937.
Reading that just sent me into this like tizzy because I was looking at the Nextdoor post that said we've been asking the city to do something about this. It's unsanitary. Like word for word, some of the exact same language from this woman who was a property owner that felt that the property values were going down because she had to look at unhoused people. And it's something that has not changed and will not change as long as we live in the capitalist system that we are in. It's impossible for people who are violently displaced over and over and over again to be able to pull themselves out of a place of poverty, which should come as no surprise because we're living in a country that it's stolen land built by stolen people. And there's absolutely no changes that are going to be made that are going to benefit houseless people based off of these clean and safe contracts. All they do is benefit people like business districts who have their money in politicians' pockets, and the police are doing their job for them. I know all of us know this, but there's also another excerpt that is really interesting too that we found, because just recently we were in a call and the city was talking about all of their like fire safety and the protocols that they were going to be using to sweep unhoused people, and claiming that houseless people are going to be responsible for wildfires this year, which is like the most absolutely ridiculous thing that I've ever heard, because as we know that is just not true. And so then I found another first-hand account of somebody writing the police or the fire department, asking them to do something about houseless people relating to wildfires, and this is kind of interesting too.
Dear Sir, it has been suggested by the Civilian Protection Division that I contact you in regard to the Auxiliary Fire Department assisting the City of Seattle in destroying old shacks that have been erected by transients in various parts of the town. For your information, the city has quite a problem on its hands, especially in regard to persons building unauthorized shacks on vacant property in certain sections of the city. This erranted a serious health menace and fire hazard for some time now, and now the city has been getting rid of these places. However, due to the outbreak of war, which placed an additional burden on our fire department, and the fact that we have had a long dry spell in the city, there are several shacks about the city which have not been destroyed. Members of the Public Safety Committee suggest that possibly the Auxiliary Fire Department would be interested in burning down these places for practice, and at the same time would be doing a good service for the City of Seattle. If it will be possible for the auxiliary firemen to burn these shacks for the city, I would suggest that you get in touch with Mr. Alan Butler of the Health Department, who is charged with the destruction of these illegal shacks, and Chief Fitzgerald of the Fire Department. Both parties have been contacted and are in apparent agreement with this method of disposing of these places. I would appreciate your letting me know at your convenience whether you think arrangements could be made to have the auxiliary firemen burn down these shacks. It would give them the opportunity to apply the training they have received.
These are things that were written almost 100 years ago. I think that one was from like 1931. And it is the exact same language that neighborhood association people, business districts are sending into the city and asking police and rapid response and other folks who do sweeps. It's the exact same language. And it's almost 100 years old. That's unacceptable. And this is in Seattle, not very far from where we are right now. There's some more from like the 1800s, and it's all the exact same. The rhetoric is the exact same, the language is the exact same, and that's because for as long as this country has been colonized, business districts are the most important, and they are being protected by police and by the city because the ruling class works hand in hand to keep people that are living outside oppressed and other oppressed communities. This is state repression, to be able to decide who is legal and who is not legal, to be able to criminalize somebody's house. That is state repression. The only thing that we can keep doing is showing up and fighting this. I thank you to Stop the Sweeps for putting on this rally. Obviously, clean and safe is dangerous, and it shouldn't be said as anything other than that. It's dangerous and it's vile, and they only seek to criminalize people who have nothing and displace them continuously and violently in the interest of people who have millions of dollars and have small businesses. That should not be okay with anybody, so that's why we're here. I really hope that y'all stay for the rest of the rally and enjoy the next speaker.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Lou. Thanks everybody for being here, and thank you, Irish, for getting a parking ticket for us. Really appreciate you. Just to talk about PBA a little bit longer, they're a multinational alliance, right? So there are international corporations that make up components of its business, alliance, right? And so the way that they utilize them, right, is through their networking potential and also through lobbying through them, right? So these like groups like Nike and Apple, they go through the PBA and then they lobby their demands through them to city councils, to the county, to the state, which gives them a very unfair advantage. But not all businesses, right, think the same way. Not all businesses believe in what the core component of downtown believes. And so I would like to introduce Jen here with the Portland Independent Business Block, who can talk about some of those components.
I did write some stuff down because I am nervous. My name is Jen. I own she, her. I use she, her pronouns. I do own 2 small businesses in Northeast Portland. Thank you guys for being here. Today is a moment, I think, like disrupting power structures can feel really difficult and the fight can feel futile, but there are these like moments and cracks in the facade and the armor where it's just really important to show up. This contract renewal, I think, is one of those moments, and I'm just really grateful for everybody to be here. Speaking of showing up, the activists with RAP and Stop the Sweeps have been working relentlessly on this issue and have taught me so much and a bunch of other Portlanders so much. And all that is to say that I think organization works and that we need to keep doing it. And I'm just incredibly grateful for the people who are doing this work. I assume since you're at this rally, you know a decent amount of, what Clean and Safe is, and maybe even familiar with the demands that we're making today. I want you to keep, if you haven't already been to a listening session, I would like you to keep an eye out for a couple of things that you might hear here. The first is that they'll likely show results from a survey of businesses downtown. They may or may not admit that this is based on a 10% response rate, and you know they made their board members fill that thing out. I don't say this because the data skews positive. It's actually a really bad report card, but I mostly want to emphasize that this is representative really how they value community input, that they're willing to pitch really impactful city policy that actually affects all Portlanders in one way or another, based on what a very small minority of stakeholders think. They have a $5 million budget, and the best they can do is get 1 in 10 business owners to fill out an online survey. The second thing I'd say to watch out for is they're going to lead with Christmas lights and small business support, but they're definitely not going to talk about the exorbitant administrative costs that pad the salaries of the staff of the special interest group known as the Portland Business Alliance, or the money paid directly to the Portland Business Bureau, or the enormous contract with Portland Patrol. Holiday decorations and small business marketing is a fraction of what they do, and it's highly manipulative to talk about one without the other. How many more street cleaners or full-time sanitation workers could we have if we weren't paying lobbyists and cops salaries? We know that the status quo usually benefits just a handful of people, but it is those people with the most influence in government and in media. In this case, it's a handful of CEOs and developers who will act in their best interest, and then they will tell you that it's in the best interest of all of Portland. But we are done with these elites telling us what we can do in our own parks and sidewalks. Let's end clean and safe.
Thank you, Jen. So many of y'all know about the horrors of policing and incarceration. And so for those of you who don't know, and those of you who want to know more, we have a very special guest speaker from Critical Resistance, hiding behind this tree over here, named Rory. Rory, if you'd like to come up.
I have to crank this up because I'm like 6 feet tall. Hi, everyone. Okay, I also wrote something. So yeah, thank you, Ben. I'm Rory, I'm with Critical Resistance Portland. So Mary Hooks, co-founder of Southerners on New Ground, often says that all roads lead to a cage in this country. She says this to expose the vast web that is the prison industrial complex. Enhanced service districts work to widen that web, to make the web more complicated, which they have, as Stop the Sweeps really tried to expose, right? And harder to see, to make it sharper and more effective at ensnaring people. Stop the Sweeps often says that ESDs directly contribute to a system in which 50% of arrests in 2017 were of unhoused people. I also told that to that fucker in the Jeep over here. He didn't really want to listen. So I told him to get the fuck out of here. Okay. Enhanced service districts like Clean and Safe represent the consolidated efforts of private and state interests to make invisible the realities of poverty and houselessness and the housing crisis. Enhanced service districts are tools of businesses and the wealthy to further displace and gentrify Black, brown, and poor communities. ESDs work on making things appear clean and safe for one population while disappearing, locking up, criminalizing the rest. Enhanced service districts like Clean and Safe are in San Francisco called community benefit districts. But they are more commonly known throughout the US as business improvement districts. I think that is the most transparent name that they use, right? It really makes clear that their goal is to oil the gears of commerce, right? They want downtowns to be like malls. So they employ these extra security, they're private, like mall cops running around on bikes with tight shorts. It's the whole thing. They're really tight, those shorts. But whatever they are called, they're evil and they must be abolished. They are an arm of the prison industrial complex because they ramp up policing, they push more people through the court system, and they work to create and strengthen new systems of policing and surveillance. I'm kind of shaking. They are an arm of the prison industrial complex even if they are disguised in terms like community, like benefit, like service, or improvement. Like the gun violence reduction team, or gender responsive imprisonment, they use sneaky and soft language to hide their true goals. They are an arm of the prison industrial complex because their purpose is not benefit or service or community, and no matter how many ugly ass murals they have painted in downtown areas, they are not about art or artistry or street art or uplifting people through art, right? And no matter how many pride flags are hanging outside their windows, they don't give a fuck about queer people at all. They're an arm of the PIC because their purpose is social control, criminalization, and to render populations to be undeserving of dignity, justice, and freedom. So ESDs are run by massive corporations, as we all know, through PBA and others. They fight for control of the city on the streets and in the media, and most importantly, they fight for control of the city behind closed doors. There's a lot of behind the closed doors meeting that PBA and ESDs are involved in. ESDs push for community-based courts. ESDs call for more cops to occupy downtown areas. They fight for more laws to criminalize our people, and they hire actual cops and private security to patrol downtown areas. They try to make policing and surveillance synonymous with safety. I think that is their the hugest goal that they try to do, right? Clean and safe, right? They do this through the media channels that their members own, right? So most every single media channel in Portland is actually owned or in business with people like PBA and Clean and Safe, right? So I think, what is it, like only the Mercury isn't owned in some part by these businesses, right? So that's every single piece of media that everyday people are consuming is leading them towards the idea that policing and criminalization equals safety in our communities. Fuck that, that is not true, right? Policing is violence, sweeps are violence, imprisonment is violence. It is not safety and never has been about safety. Safety comes from each other and from community and having community and being able to maintain community. Being incarcerated, being swept, being moved away from your people, you are not able to maintain that community which keeps you safe. Because people deserve to live with dignity, with justice and freedom, we must end the clean and safe contract, abolish ESDs, and abolish the prison industrial complex. If all roads lead to cages in this country, we must make clear connections between surveillance, policing, and imprisonment. We want eyes on the whole fucking picture, and we want to take it all down. And clean and safe, abolition now, free Malik, and free them all.
You are so tall. Thank you. Thank you, Rory. Thank you. So now I want to introduce someone that's been organizing against police, for asking for their accountability, going to city council, going to the media for over 20 years, and is a current board member of the Right to Survive and helps run the Hygiene Center over SJAC, and is a very valuable, critical member of Stop the Sweeps. Jeff Litticoat, if you have the pleasure of coming up.
Well, I'm glad they put this down because I'm short and fat. And I'll probably be out of breath because like 3 months ago I quit smoking cigarettes and my breathing has gotten worse. And I put on 30 pounds, so both of those things are probably going to get worse still. So there's that. Yeah, so the haves picking on the have-nots, yes, throughout every bit of history that I can think of, and well before this country too. It's totally not new because it's totally as a consequence of human nature. And really, I think if we want to create a vision and get beyond this whole setup, we need to be really human and not a bunch of animals. Because that's what it is when those neighbors insist on people being swept. And the raps that they give. Okay, so I've been a pretty close observer of the public discourse on these issues. First as an activist back in the 80s and early 90s, and then in 2 different stints as living with the homeless, and a little bit of activism here and there. And I don't blame the politicians, because they're like the crab and the frog, or the crab and the scorpion, or the frog and the scorpion. They're gonna do what they're gonna do, they're what they are. And what their job is to represent the people that they say they're gonna represent, and to get reelected, to hold on to their job. So they're just doing what they do. As far as the rest of the community goes, there's the advocates, so some of them against the homeless and some of them for the homeless, and then the homeless themselves, and they all do a darn good job of communicating about these things. The problem, as far as I can see, lies with the media. And I'm not just talking, like the newspapers and the television stations, all of it, all of the discussion. Almost any novel where I like the writer, where it's a good book, it'll have a chapter, it'll have a paragraph or 2 in there eventually that says something along the lines of, and it was nice to get out of town away from the graffiti and the crime and the homeless. They've got people on this planet and in this country so thoroughly brainwashed to this us, them, and demonizing the homeless that I don't think they have much of a choice but to act the way that they act. And it's our job, I think, to somehow resolve this problem, either by getting our media outlets and others, or just by communicating to the broader community that these things are wrong. Just as some examples of what our media does in order to dumb down this whole conversation. They will seem kind of balanced, because they'll say so-and-so from the activist group such and such said, well, homelessness is bad. And then that person, of course, is happy to get the name in the paper, and so the activists are happy. But there's no in-depth conversation. Off the record, not printed in the newspaper, that activist will have responses to all these different raps about the homeless, whether it's they're unhealthy, or they spread garbage, or they do crime, or the rest of it. There are good responses to all of that. Take just yesterday and the Laurelhurst stuff. So, yeah, somebody was supposedly brandishing weapons. Don't really have any hard evidence of that, no actual witnesses that are willing to let their names be used. Now, was that gun loaded? Did it have a permit? Was there a citation issued? Was there, due process offered? Certainly not for the dozens of homeless people that are going to be evicted from the park. They're going to suffer the punishment as a consequence of a bunch of bullshit. But not word one of any such thing in the newspapers. And brandishing guns, who do you really think, where do you think there's more guns? Do you think there's more guns in those ramshackle tents? Or do you think there's more guns in all those $1 million houses that are around that neighborhood? Garbage? Oh, the homeless and their garbage. Try not to use just assume that there are many expletive deleteds in this speech. Garbage. Yeah, okay, so homeless could probably do a better job of, straightening up, especially since everybody's bitching about it all the time. But the fact of the matter is, number one, it's not really their garbage, it's stuff that they temporarily diverted from the waste stream of the housed people, trying to get some value out of it, and then they don't hide it properly. If you saw all the garbage created by the housed people, it makes you literally sick. You want to puke. The homeless have an incredibly low carbon footprint. These communities, as far as the campers go, they don't cost the public a lot in terms of taxes or expenses on housing because a lot of them don't want their goddamn housing. And as a consequence of having a low carbon footprint, they're helping to save the planet. The homeless are owed a debt of gratitude from the public rather than getting shit on all the time, judged and swept. Speaking of judgment, that's probably the worst thing that I can think of, is the looks that people get, the feelings that they have as a consequence of every single sector of society telling them they're wrong. So that's garbage. There's others. Health. So, take the pandemic. They were saying, and this is Laurelhurst again, that as a consequence of the citizens having to walk past the homeless, and the homeless and their garbage, and they're going to commute, they're going to make them sick. No, excuse me, the Republicans in that neighborhood probably going to meetings without masks on. At minimum, they're inside houses with their families that are out and exposed. And this is true in relation to COVID, and it's true in terms of all disease communication. The homeless have a tendency, especially campers, have a tendency to keep to themselves in their single tents. I would love to, so Wheeler and company were saying, it's healthier to have them in a shelter. And we're going to take care of them, and it's going to be in their self-interest, and we're trying to protect the homeless. Make them make a choice between being in a tent that's zipped up, 1 foot from another tent and another person that's got COVID all night long. Would you rather be in your own tent, zipped up, or would you want to be in a homeless shelter all night long, breathing in and out, in and out? And it's true for all disease. It's true for the flu, which also kills people. It's true for the cold, which also kills people. And there will be new diseases, but there won't be new positions in relation to the homeless. One of the things that drove me nuts about the coverage of Laurelhurst last night was a line in one, I forget what source it was, but they said, we've been doing all this cleaning up and sending out caseworkers, and it's just costing us so much. You just got $2.4 billion allocated by the citizens for taxes to help the homeless. And plus you've got just tons of it laying around from the grants through the COVID stuff. Give me a break. And what is with the media that they don't ask these questions? If the politicians say, we spent so much money and we can't spend anymore, God damn it, ask them how much has been spent. And seriously, I can just go on and on and on. Because they are so fucked that every single time I hear anything out of their mouths, it's bullshit. And it's wrong, and it's inhuman, it's animal.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Now I would like to have the pleasure of, wait, one point of thing. So Franz here in the black hat, he's a lawyer. I like to say that. He will be signing people up for testimony. So if you want to speak while you're in there, go to Franz, he has his sheets. And yeah, and we only got about 15 minutes left. The beginning of it will be a presentation that we probably have already seen before, but still. Okay, so now I would like to have the pleasure of introducing one of the strongest people that I've met in quite a few years. Barbie, they've been leading the program at Ground Score. I've seen them do amazing work around Sisters of the Road. And please come on up.
I'm Barbie, Barbara Weber. You can pick which name you want to use, she, they, them. I have a list of things, a long list of organizations that I could speak of and I could represent. But the one that's most closest to my heart is my tent space across the street from Sisters of the Road. At one point, we were getting swept 10 times a month, okay? We were asked to move everything. You're looking at somebody that threw their tent in the middle of the street. I will say that I'm very fortunate that I have not had any property removed, okay? That's usually because I have a lot of people around and I've just been fortunate. But I've seen property be removed, like a bicycle being ripped out of somebody's hands and twisting their back and injuring them. Now, if anybody gets arrested, anything that's with them, they have to document every piece of belonging. When a sweep happens, they're not required to do that. They're only required to fill trash bags and put dates and a location. Okay, that's the existence of human beings in those bags. Now, I'm the co-founder and coordinator with Ground Score Association, and we're a peer initiative Trash for Peace. I'm very close to the garbage situation, as a lot of you know. But I will say, one thing is that anybody that lives in a house or an apartment, if you could imagine, you have closets, you have junk drawers, you have storage areas, okay? You have, if you don't want to look at something or it's in your way, then you have a place to put it, okay? Living outside, you lack the resources to properly store your belongings, and it's a constant battle. You want to be comfortable, and what is wrong with comfort? What is wrong with wanting that blanket that your granny made you? Okay? I mean, these things, everything means something to people, and it's disregarded. One thing about our job is that we are intentional on purpose, ridiculously. Are you done with that? Do you want to keep that? You know, the litter collection is in charge of the campers, the people that live there. So, you know, it's this issue is very important to me. I will say that I've met a few people with Clean and Safe that are not, they do very nice. They're very nice people, but they're programmed to think that we're the problem, okay? Now, Officer Sanders at one time told a whole group of us that we were tearing down the fabric of this country, but what we were trying to do. And that's word for word, okay? Also, following that statement, he said that any one of us that said that we were a Christ follower or a Christian were poor Christians because we were not following the law of the city. So these are, I mean, you have to know that the conversations that they have with us are not the ones that you guys see. You're not seeing the damage. I went block by block and I tried to get people here. Okay, all you gotta do is take your ass out of this building and go talk to people, and they'll tell you about what they need, and they'll tell you about the abuse that they've taken. You wanna know why we have so much acting out? Well, people don't get to sleep. I've been up for 5 straight days, and it wasn't on meth, it wasn't on too much coffee. It's because between Clean and Safe and the fucking cops, and then just the neighbor, or, you know, other people reacting to this trauma, there was no sleep. None. You know, they want to pigeonhole people into, you know, when you talk about chronic homelessness, they have no understanding of that. They look at it from a very, very narrow lens. Chronic homelessness is similar to autism in nature. There's a spectrum, and they don't address every one of us. I personally, and this is being a little transparent, and I might get a little emotional about this, I went to a lot of my friends that have positions that I know, that I've organized with, and I said, am I chronically homeless? 10 out of 10 said no. The truth is, I've struggled with homelessness my entire life. I am chronically homeless. I just don't need social services or wraparound services. You know, I had a community that I trusted. I live in Hazelnut Grove, which is a self-governed village, okay? My community is what uplifted me, and I'll celebrate a year sober on August 9th. So that's what self-peer ran. Okay, we don't need professional counseling, people. Maybe some people need services, and that's okay, that's their choice. But it's also our choice. Give us our resources. Give us the things that we need to take care of each other, because we're the best qualified. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbie. And now finally I'd like to introduce our last speaker. He's with the Oregon Justice Resource Center and has been helping lead the charge on the class action lawsuit against the city for property reclamation. So Juan Chavez, if you don't mind, come and join us.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. I'm not a 6 feet tall, but a mere 5'11", so don't quite need so much height. Thank you all for being here. This has been an incredible event. Thank you to Soccer Sweeps, everybody who organized this, Benjamin, incredible. I'll be short. I don't have too much to say because everybody has said such incredible things. But I'm just reminded of kind of a famous line in legal history, which is the law in its majesty equally forbids rich and poor alike to sleep under bridges, to beg in the streets, and to steal their bread. And I think that gets at just the point of all this. The rich run the town. They have used their ability to lobby city government, to buy private security, to protect their property, to protect their businesses, and that is against the best interests of the community. I think, anybody see that whole thing this weekend? Sounds like a stand-up routine. Anybody see that Here for Portland thing this whole weekend? Boo! Who said that? So, my takeaway from that was racial justice protests are bad for business. People being displaced is good for business, and graffiti bad. People need to be shopping around Pioneer Square. Now imagine the city having a whole day, a whole festival where we celebrated the folks who make up this community, who live here. I work in an old town. I see all sorts of folks living down Old Town, and they're my neighbors. They're folks who are living their lives, trying to go about their day and to not be hassled by services like Clean and Safe. Clean and Safe is, you know, obviously one of those hilarious Orwellian terms of really conveying the prerogatives of the rich. So, does anybody feel necessarily safer because Clean and Safe is around? No, of course not. I personally just shrivel up inside whenever I see them. I am worried what's happening to my neighbors. And, you know, folks, us on the street, you know, we have our numbers, we have our ability to go inside there and let City Hall know what's going on. But we don't have the backroom meetings. We don't have the organizing that happens around conference tables. And that's on purpose. We built this whole damn system to privilege people who sit around conference tables. And that's just not where the best changes will happen. We're a city without a sobering center. We're a city without, an effective mental health walk-in center. If you had, if you're in a crisis, you're going to go to Unity, where there's understaffed, there's people getting hurt, and you're going to be locked up in a patient room. Those are services that we could be funding, we could be providing, but instead we're paying for these private security forces to displace people, to move people 300 feet, and in the process interrupting their whole lives. So, we know policing is a failed project. Modern policing has been around for about 150 years or so. Now it certainly seems like we're going into a new era of private police, of the old police, clearly broken, not that they could be fixed, but they weren't doing enough of the brutalizing and moving and displacing that private businesses wanted, so they're hiring their own damn people. We don't need 150 years of more policing, and certainly we don't need 150 years of private policing. And that's why we need to go and tell City Hall to end this contract, give them the boot, and give people the services they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. So now we're going to do the nitty-gritty of going in there and letting them know what we think. And this is very critical. This will be the only forum, other than the online one tonight, where we can all have a voice in this matter, right? And just to give people a quick timeline, the vote that will happen through City Council will probably happen near the end of September. They haven't announced the exact date, even though they've had 7-8 months to worry about it. But yeah, so they're going to be doing health assessments and a screening to make sure you don't have, sickness and stuff prior. So start lining up near the front, and those of you who already signed up, you got to be in like your own group or whatever. I'm not quite sure on the specifics, but yeah. And just let them know what you feel about private security, what you feel about business alliances dictating the way that we live and conduct ourselves in public space, right? These private-public partnerships are taking over every major downtown, not just this one. So be aware of these dynamics and help stop Clean and Safe, please. Thank you.
Okay, so next steps here.
Time to recall Ted Wheeler. Happy to take your
I haven't
signature.
really figured out if I'm going to be able to get up there easily myself to show you what's going on. So I'm going to check out the Zoom call right now, and if it looks good, we might stick around out here and show you the call on the screen. So hang tight for a moment. Keep going. So I imagine there's a process to getting in there and all of that, so.
Where do you want me?
Anywhere's fine, really.
Yeah. We just looked up the stuff.
Problem.
You actually watch this, Monica. You don't need to do that. Here, come on, up. He just got his papers today.
Are you hoping to go inside?
I'm just kind of waiting.
Did you fill out the thing? Do you want me to grab one for you?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay, well, I guess it's not really running yet.
Yeah, but he also
This is actually a secret in the maybe better. Oh. Potentially just put it maybe in the pocket.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we're all hooked up here.
A little bit about what this event here all is and how it relates to cleaning.
Sure. So today, City Council is going to be having this discussion about their renewal of the Clean and Safe contract. People are here today to talk about what it is that Clean and Safe does. Displace people and deprive them of the opportunity to just live out their day.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, is there going to be people like testifying against the renewal of the
Yeah, sure. So they're taking sign-ups for people are going to be testifying. We're also probably going to be hearing from the Business Alliance who purchases the Clean and Safe using public funds, and the City Council will hear from everybody.
And what is your organization's stance about?
Alright, turning down this
Well, the public should know that there is no benefit to sweeping people off the streets. They're not garbage. They are people who are trying to go about their days, to live their lives, and displacing them is not going to solve the problem. This is not going to solve the problem of perceived crime or uncleanliness. What is going to be is providing services, providing housing.
What do you hope this event, what you'll get out of it?
Well, I hope City Council gets a more accurate view of what it is that Clean and Safe does. And I hope that City Council, again, listens to the voices of the community rather than moneyed elites who don't necessarily live in the city or don't necessarily have its best interest in mind.
Now, Clean and Safe, I mean, they do cleaning up of streets, is that right? But what else do? They actually hire private security?
Yes, so it's all part of an overall banner of business special districts, which essentially allows for public funds to be used by private corporations to protect their property. So there's so many words. So there's actually district attorneys who work for these businesses. There's Portland police officers, and they all work together to criminalize
And so this event is being put on by someone.
We're heading in and up there now. I'm going to stick around out here and let's hope the Zoom meeting turns into something more interesting. I don't know, I was kind of thinking it would have video.
Barbie, did you get one of these?
Okay, we do have video.
Hello everyone. Welcome to this afternoon's community listening session intended to provide the community with an opportunity to have direct input into the periodic review of local work during that time.
Alright, I gotta reconnect because the audio is not coming through. Or All right, gotta do it this way.
Has initiated conversations
Sounds coming in
safety.
through here.
Collaboratively negotiate the practice of work. We need input from ratepayers in the community regarding what is working and not working in the district, opportunities for improvements, and to identify what services are important to consider and include in a decision. There are several opportunities to learn more about the district and provide your input.
This is just a presentation before people do the testimony anyways.
Sessions and 2 citywide listening sessions. Those 2 citywides include the one we are currently in. Both the periodic review and the contract renewal will also go before council in September. We now have a date for that, September 23rd, from 2 to 5 p.m. That is another opportunity to provide. We have a new Enhanced Service District website where you can find information on enhanced service districts in the city, current project and event information, a comment form if you prefer to provide your input online or ask questions, links to the code and to the Revenue Bureau for payment information.
How's it going?
Pretty good. I'm like co-streaming the meeting and out here at the same time.
What's the meeting?
The stuff going on for it's a hearing for Clean and Safe.
Oh, nice.
Portland Clean and Safe, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
Finally, on a related note, an audit conducted in August 2020 by the Portland City Auditor.
It's a nice day to hang out. Chat with Ben too.
The auditor also recommended that the city develop guidelines for district.
How's it going, Ben?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for
Good.
being here today.
Yeah, no problem. It's a chance to get in on the meeting too, so
Oh, good.
I got it going on my stream right now, along with all of this stuff.
You're a walking projector.
Yeah, pretty much.
Who's
I was
Irish?
Hi, Irish. Phillip, nice to meet you.
You're with a group that has a name.
Halospace.
Halospace.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen your van.
Oh, the media bus, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Back at
Malt shop days, yep. That was a hell of a 4 days, wasn't it?
4 days. That was 2 weeks.
Well, at Malt Shop, no, it moved to the other place, but like that was like it's like a week tops, right?
That was 2 weeks.
Gosh, I have a bad memory. I just remember lots of water back and forth.
Yeah, it's easy to forget stuff. When every week feels like a year.
This is the presentation you're talking about, right? It's just all the.
It's usually about a 20-minute presentation.
Okay.
And they're gonna have online speakers first, and then people that signed up in advance, and then people that are in the room.
Are they gonna do the video in the room for that part? Do you know?
I'm not
I was
sure.
thinking about trying to get up in there, but
What time is it?
it's like 12:30, 12:21.
12:21. Cool. Media silence.
Oh, recall. I'm not a voter.
It's not a recall. You're not a voter in Oregon?
I'm a registered Republican in Florida.
You're an Oregon voter?
Yes, and I have not signed it yet.
Do you want to? This isn't
That's not
technically.
that?
This is Oregon People's Rebate, which minimum corporate tax rate is less than 1/8 of 1%.
You want
This
to tell
would
my stream
increase
about it? I'm live right now.
You're live right now?
I'm live right
So
now.
they're already hearing me?
They're hearing you, yeah.
Cool. Hey, everybody, you should go to OPR. What's their website? OPR2022.org. What it does is, sorry for the gloves. Currently, our tax rate for corporations, the minimum corporate tax rate is less than 1/8 of 1%. And what the Oregon People's Rebate will do is increase that to 3%, which kicks us from where we are, like 49th or 50th in the country, as far as lowest minimum corporate tax rates, kicks us up to like 10th or 11th. Now, there's a catch. There's a good catch. It's only on big business, $25 million or more in revenue annually, which is over $68,000 a day. So you're not talking about your small business, you're not talking about your small businesses. The money goes straight towards people as a rebate. So everybody, every Oregon resident, regardless of age, income, whatever, gets that as a kickback annually. It's estimated to be about $750 every year. That goes straight back to the Oregon people. The common questions for this, because this is a live stream, that money be spent in better ways. I'd rather that go towards the budget. Well, that's a pretty paternalistic point of view, right? That father knows best, that you know better than people what they could use $750 for. So we're down here talking about, unhoused assistance. $750 a year would be a lot
huge for some people.
Yep. And how dare you think that you know better than they do how they could benefit from that? So it puts the power back in the people's hands so that they can make choices for themselves, right? This is going to be out of the legislature. It's not going to be fought over by partisan politicians. It's not going to be buried or diverted or forgotten about or misused or abused or whatever, like some state funds are. We all can think of them.
We've done kickbacks before too, so it's
for
like a
smaller
proven
things,
way to like get money back to Oregonians.
So hearing you say that, I'm going to ask you to sign.
I'm back. Sorry about the audio cut. Okay. Let's get back to the presentation real quick. Keep you entertained. Unfortunately, the people who are coming to do the talking on scene are like last. So let's juggle all my different devices and that's what
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Great.
Satisfied 70%, not at all 60%. I can tell you this is a number. While we're happy at 72% satisfied, we'll never be happy until this reaches as close to 100%. And then the value of the holiday lighting program. One thing I don't think a lot of people realize.
I also am realizing
the holiday lighting.
I have time to run home. Catch the rest of this on
We're very high
the actual Zoom meeting.
Rating of importance in the holiday.
But if you're cool with the audio situation right now and everything looks okay, then we'll just hang out, as good a place as any. I got all my supplies.
Locating your stay downtown, track this over time.
I just wish the audio was not problematic.
Other businesses. 3, accessibility. 4, density. 5, public transportation. Factors that need improvement: homelessness, cleanliness, vandalism, handlers, cost of parking, and availability. Okay, so that's the survey. It's available online, and again, I'm happy to take questions afterwards or in the future. Thank you very much.
Right, done. So now we are ready to take comments. Now we are ready to take comment and hear from the community about how
So that's the survey. It's available online.
We're going to take comment in the following order. Those who registered to participate virtually and indicated yes or I don't know. Those who registered to participate in person and indicated yes or I don't know. Those indicated yes or I don't know. You said no or left it blank. And you want to change that. We'll ask at the end if there's time if you'd like to testify. So when I call your name, if you are virtual, your mic will be turned on and you will have 2 minutes to comment. If you are in person, once you have made your way to the microphone, you will also have 2 minutes to comment. If you would prefer to not comment, you can just say no thank you or pass and move on to the next person on the list. So I'm going to turn it over to Janet online to go through the list and go online.
My name is Janet Storm. I'm a analyst for the Office of Management and Finance in the City of Portland. The first name we have on our list is Addie Leverett.
Yes.
I don't have a card on me.
I can write it down.
I have no comment.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I'm not going to say it out loud.
Ashley.
I'm having to do the audio, like, I'm streaming this screen, but the audio is not working from here, so I'm doing the audio through the camera. Yeah, I gotta open my email here real quick. It does get a little bit confusing sometimes.
Let's move on to Data Buell.
Well, I'm in there virtually. Are they letting people in for media? Yeah, I'll pop in there real quick. Just get the email address. And he said they're about to close the doors, so. There you go. All right, thank you so much. All right, might lose the stream while I go in and try to find Wi-Fi or something.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you go ahead and sign in? What Benjamin is going to I have to return. Yeah.
Are you with OMF?
I am. I don't know if my microphone is on, but I have no comment. Thank you. I don't know how the microphone thing works on the Zoom meeting. I should probably just
If you tap on the screen, there should be an icon that says mute or unmute.
I'll just pop out of there.
Sure.
No comment. There we go.
Do you know if there's a Wi-Fi inside here?
The city guest Wi-Fi.
Oh, city guests. Okay.
So yeah, I've been in OMF just for a short time.
Are you the new ESD coordinator? No. I'm trying to figure out who they hired for that.
I don't know.
Tiger Forum. I'll be back to help you with that.
Hi.
Hi, Holly.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. If you lose me, I'll be back on the
Security has on unhoused people and the violence that's done against them. And I support everything that Stop the Sweeps is asking for. And if possible, I know I have about a minute left, I would like to give it back to Richard Perkins and let him finish his testimony. Thank you.
Let's wrap that up at the end. I want to give people the opportunity in person as well. And I know that Richard has provided his input in writing.
We have one more person who would like to speak. That's Tyler Wallachek. Tyler?
Yes, I have some remarks I'd like to read out. So I think it is very obvious that what people who are in various forms of crisis on our streets need is far better social services. They do not need to be tormented by security and police who are untrained in confronting these crises. Whatever services that clean and safe officers do manage to connect unhoused people with are not sufficient, and they do not justify the simultaneous use of displacement and punishment. The real answer to homelessness is simple, and that is to provide people with homes. Sweeps and harassment are even counterproductive. I think it's abundantly clear that clean, safe enforcement policies are not determined by the needs and the rights of the unhoused. Instead, they're determined by the interests of those who consider the unhoused to be a nuisance. And in that vein, I would like to point out how Clean, Safe, and the Lloyd District's role in funding local courts and assistant district attorneys has been revealed by the audit. So last summer, the auditors documented that the reason that Clean and Safe stopped funding the Westside Community Court was that they were not getting what they wanted in terms of conviction rates. And I think that should be a clear sign that they have a vested interest in confronting homelessness with punishment. Right now, it seems like criminalization is the primary plan, and that is not a solution. It is a blunt and inhumane tool. Clean and Safe and other enhanced service districts facilitate the use of those tools against struggling Portlanders. And I hope that the city pursues a different approach. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so we're not going to take in-person input. We're going to go with those who registered first. And I have that list, and then I'll turn it over to Shauna. So first up is Karen Nelson.
So you can come over here, that's right here. And then the next person, that's another person on deck.
The next person is Jennifer Chasseret. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Jennifer?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Karen Nelson, and I am a current business owner in Northeast Portland. In a couple weeks, I'll be opening a business in downtown Portland. I've been a business owner for about 6 years. Prior to that, I worked in 503s and 506s, so I understand that organization. I gotta say, John, this survey response rate, it's kind of scary. And I know we have a lot of talented marketing folks in our community. Hopefully we can put some resources and funding to folks that are going to deliver a better survey response. And I'm just saying that as someone who does marketing for my own small business. So as a business that's going to be a tenant of a ratepayer, I'm definitely concerned about this contract with Clean and Safe. I have to admit it's something that I'm new to and learning about, and I really appreciate our community stakeholders for holding the folks in power responsible. So thank you to all of you. It's something that I'm deeply concerned about as a new member of this downtown community, and I want to be involved in holding these folks accountable. I can't see how it makes business sense. I wouldn't enter into a contract with these results, or rather renew a contract with these results. That's kind of where I keep landing with it, so I'm definitely interested in learning more. I really hope that I get to opt out as a trickle-down ratepayer, I guess, in this process. Not all businesses align with the goals of these ESPs. Certainly mine doesn't. My business also values transparency and the people, not just the people that are profiting from from my business, which honestly there's not many. But since these are not public entities, participation should be optional. I'd like to see that we no longer require mandatory fees for ESDs, that property owners can choose their own the ESD. Thanks so much.
All right, next up is Jennifer, and on deck is Anita Davidson and Joanna Brenner. There's 2 chairs for those who want to.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jennifer. I am a small business owner on the east side. But I just, yeah, a lot of the things, well, I agree with almost everything. The folks against the program have said, I don't know how much more to offer, except that I think that the lack of transparency in this program is really, really troubling. The financial side, there hasn't really been a formal response to the audit. There hasn't been a formal response to the community policing board suggestions. And John has talked about modernizing the program, but I haven't heard anything about that. I can't imagine entering into a tender contract without like explicit, detailed result changes. And then I still don't know how that contract can be decided by 5 council members, 3 of whom haven't met with the wider community that has been working on this issue for a long time. And a couple of whom were just really unfamiliar with the issue to begin with. I mean, I think this group has educated city council members on the topic. They knew very little about it, and now they're set to vote on it in their contract. It's huge for the city, and I worry that people aren't educated on it, and we need to hear more. Thank you.
All right, Anita, then Joanna, and then Noah.
Yes, my name is Anita Davidson. I'm a downtown resident, a condominium owner, and a taxpayer. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today. My first item is rather self-serving, but it points to the problem with the fee schedule and the boundaries. Condominium owners should be exempt from the clean and safe district fee, just like other residential owners are. In 2012, the city exempted residential property defined as a dwelling unit. In Chapter 39, condominiums are defined as a dwelling unit in that chapter. So condo owners should be exempt from the fee, but we're not. The service district fee is essentially a double tax on condo owners who already pay individual property taxes. While condos paid only $160,000, or about 2.7% of the $6 million collected in 2020, 10 properties are disproportionately impacted. This is because we're already taxed for city-provided services. I paid over $8,000 in property tax last year. Condo owners cannot deduct or pass through the fee as overhead, which every other ratepayer can do. The service district fee effectively raises HOA dues, which adversely impact our value and our reasonableness for living downtown. And in addition, most prominently, 12 condominium high-rises and many apartments were built just outside the 1994 boundaries, and they also live downtown, but they pay nothing. And as far as the survey goes, let me interject here, John. I've heard it 3 times now, and I asked previously, show us what you've done since 2017. Don't just show us how the dissatisfaction has gone up. So the second point, because I'm probably running out of time, is that the clean and safe funding should not be used. It's totally inappropriate to fund private security in public spaces. There's no jurisdiction for that there, and it should be forbidden. Now, you highlighted holiday lighting. Maybe the folks don't know, $300,000 was spent on holiday lighting. $3 million was spent on armed and unarmed security in 2020. But fatalities are caused by personal violence, and in Portland, those now exceed traffic fatalities. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have Joanna and Noah, and then we're on to your list. You want me to?
Rory Elliott.
Hi, my name is Joanna Brenner. I'm Professor Emerita of Sociology at Portland State. One of my areas of scholarship is political sociology. It has long been recognized that a democratic civic life requires vibrant and accessible public space, what has come to be referred to as the commons. Enhanced service districts are part of a larger, decades-old process of the privatization of the commons as underfunded city governments have allowed commercial property owners to take control over city space. The city auditor flagged the lack of accountability. An additional concern is that the governance of the ESD is fundamentally undemocratic. Decisions are made by a board where only commercial property owners can vote, business owners who rent spaces, renters who live in the area, and even residential property owners are all excluded from deciding how the ESD operate, in addition to the exclusion of the house's community. The SAFE part of the Downtown Clean and Safe program allows private policing of public space. This is another form of shrinking the commons, where public safety is no longer a public good, but an undemocratic private function. In their recommendations to the city, the Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing called upon the city to eliminate privatized security in the ESD. They also recommended the expansion of Portland Street Response throughout the city. PSR could do the work that private security does in downtown when responding to people experiencing crisis. Additionally, PSEC recommended expansion of the number of public safety support specialists who are unarmed public safety personnel trained in de-escalation and broad knowledge of available services. City employees could serve the downtown area. Of course, these are not solutions to houselessness, as everyone says. We need non-policing, more services, more respectful support to campers, more housing alternatives, and more affordable housing. You and the mayor and city council have expressed
You were asked 2 minutes.
Can I finish? And have expressed interest in rethinking public safety in our city, eliminating privatized security systems in the ESD and replacing them with unarmed public servants who are accountable directly to our elected representatives is an easy step in this direction.
All right, next up is Noah, then Rory, then Jana Tessman.
Hi, my name is Noah Bernstein. Thanks for taking my comments today. As a Portland small business owner, I attended the listening session held on June 29th, where we saw the graphs that you presented today without comment, as I'm sure will happen today, just be presented out into the world. One graph after another, though, showed in no uncertain terms a steady increase in the impact that houselessness, mental health, and substance abuse has on businesses in the downtown area. A steady decrease over the last decade of cleanliness in the city, and indeed a decrease in the feeling of safety. Not addressed once was the fact that clearly to those directly affected, Portland is drastically less clean and safe than it was 10 years ago, or to put it more bluntly, clean and safe is not working. Sure, some members of the business community that are listening at the listening session said they used the services and wanted more of it. It's all they've known. It's the only tool they have, and they're being forced to pay into the system anyway, so they might as well use it. And it's maybe slightly less dangerous than calling the Portland police. But to push through this contract, once again, without any widespread community input, seems to be really missing a moment, and I would like to thank RAB and Stop the Streets and other advocacy groups for forcing the issue. We need real and meaningful solutions for the issues people experiencing houselessness are facing. Criminalizing and pushing them out of the downtown ESD is only causing further sweeps elsewhere in the city, as we saw posted yesterday at Laurelhurst Park. Armed private security and extra police officers are only causing more violent confrontations, putting the lives of our most vulnerable on the line. We also need to take corporate interests out of the equation by cutting ties with the Portland Business Alliance. We need to start acting with radical compassion if we are to tie ourselves as the progressive city we need to be. We need to stop clean and safe. Thank you.
All right, next up is Rory, then Jana, then Winona Reed.
Hello, my name is Rory. I'm going to do a little exercise with the group of people who are here. If anyone has the demands written in their hand against ESDs, please read along with me. Community demands for clean and safe contract renewal. 1. Remove private security patrols from public spaces. 2, remove the ability of enhanced service districts to fund PPB's sworn officer positions. 3, remove all public money from ESDs. 4, remove Portland Business Alliance from Clean and Safe. 5, put ESD renewals on the ballot for people to actually vote on them if they are operating in the public way in any way. Get rid of the Downtown Security Network and ESD's partnership with District Attorney's Office. 7, create an opt-out or ideally opt-out opt-in system for residents, businesses who do not wish to receive the services to not have to pay ESD. I'm going to read them one more time. 1, remove private security patrols from public spaces. 2, remove the ability of enhanced service districts to fund PPB's sworn officer positions. 3, remove all public money from ESPs. 4, remove Portland Business Alliance from the Clean and Safe. 5, put ESD renewals on the ballot for people to actually vote on them if they are operating in the public right of way in any way. 6, get rid of the Downtown Security Network and ESD's partnership with the District Attorney's Office. And 7, create an opt-out or ideally opt-in system for residents and businesses who do not wish to receive the services to not participate in ESDs. I noticed that the 2020 uproar, this was in response to police murder of Black people, right? So the goal of ESD is to respond, I'm going to finish, to this violence that is well documented and enshrined in the system of the U.S. is to fund more policing that is antithetical to the demands of the Black Lives Matter movement, and it must be stopped. Abolish ESDs.
All right, next up is Jana, then Winona, and then John Elder.
It is more cost efficient to provide housing and services to the homeless than it is to push people around. In a state with some of the worst mental health care systems in the entire country, I'm going to just say it again. It is more cost efficient to provide housing and services to the homeless than it is to criminalize them or beat them up or push them around. So I just have to wonder if you all know, I know that you all know that it would be more cost efficient for the city to be paying for housing and services than the other outcomes from this violence and neglect. So why doesn't it happen? Is the city actually serving me as a constituent or any of the people that live here? Or is it serving Portland Business Alliance, Google, Amazon, all these huge companies that you don't think that, we talk about Portland brand? When we talk about Portland's brand, I think of like the strip clubs and the dispensaries and the small businesses, not Amazon, not Google. Anybody can put on a light show. You don't represent us. Stop using our city for your profit.
All right, Winona, then John Elder, and then Shannon Burns.
My name is Ruthie. I'm here to talk about the worst day of my life. So it's going to take me a little longer than 2 minutes, so please forgive me for ignoring you. So it starts in this building and it ends in this building. So in the year of our Lord 2005, I got out of the Marine Corps. I was happily hired here as the security guard at the Portland building. And, it was an okay job. I helped, foil some bike thefts and stuff. But what I was really excited about is, my new friends, the bike messengers, they have a cool job. So I was able to get hired over there. But only for about 2 months because on Martin Luther King Day, 2006, a couple of my colleagues and I found ourselves at the Morrison building and we decided, it's rainy and disgusting. We're going to go into the Morrison Bridge and smoke a cigarette. Well, no sooner had we lit our cigarettes and started shooting shit than a downtown Clean and Safe officer rolls up on us, starts screaming at us, and says that we're doing drugs and we don't need to be there. She later on calls into our work and gets us fired on no evidence. So on the same day, me, the only black messenger and the only Mexican messenger, lost our jobs. And I went right back here and became the security guard again. So you tell me what makes sense about downtown clean and safe. Arbitrary rules. It's, you guys are racist. You guys are, it's wrong. You guys are people. That's all I have to say.
Okay, John, then Shannon Kearns, and then Joanna Renner. You already testified. Okay. So Anita, you already did too. Jen Carew is after Shannon.
Thank you for coming, everybody. It's really inspiring to see what's out here today. John, 10% response rate on a survey of downtown business is a garbage response rate. To qualify people to say they're somewhat satisfied as being satisfied and say it's 70% satisfaction rate is ridiculous. I'm from here and I can tell you that in Portland, when someone tells you that they are somewhat satisfied, you may have done a pretty bad job. This is ridiculous. They're asking for a 10-year contract. I know you know how long 10 years is, but it's just absurd to think about the people that are currently entering the systems that are going to cause them to lose their homes, that are then going to have to deal with it in 10 years. It's absurd that you can put out a survey without comment and talk about tree lighting and talk about these abstract ideas that panhandling is somehow ruining people's day. Last time I checked, getting asked for a couple of bucks by somebody does not ruin my day. Not to mention all the corporations that ask for my money every day, not to mention tax money that I do all the time. I mean, it's really absurd. It's honestly ridiculous that it's taking public comment. And the fact that you're the oldest enhanced service district, that matters. Last time I checked, we're kind of on the smooth thing where we're looking at old stuff and realizing that maybe it's not that great. So I think maybe we should do that with y'all. The private police force downtown is absurd to think about. I mean, we already have a terrible public police force. What will the private police force do? It would be any better. We have better examples already in Eugene. Cahoots is a great example. I really advise the city to look at that. But do I trust y'all not to ruin it? I don't know. It's got to be better than this. I can't believe my tax money goes to this. My family rents a business space downtown. I can't believe that we pay into this program. It's absurd. The fact that we don't have a choice is frankly ridiculous. The people above me have said it much better. To the person who testified virtually earlier that was talking about restorative justice, I highly recommend you Google that term and actually do some research, because that's whatever you were talking about is not restorative justice. More cops is not going to fix this. Unarmed mental health officers and answer cops is not going to fix this issue. Homes for people is going to fix this issue. Empathy is going to fix this issue. Talking with people that you know exist in your city instead of sending your armed people or unarmed people whoever to get them to move away so they can just come back. That might actually help things. If you wonder why vandalism is at such an uproar.
You're at 2 minutes.
I'm at 2 minutes. You're going to try to get in 10 years. I'm going to take a little bit of time. You can't, if you would talk to people, you have to understand the people you're dealing with. You can't just send people or push them around. The same way that you should actually talk to these businesses instead of sending out a survey. You can say 10% rate's a good return rate, but I just don't believe you at the end of the day. I don't see why I should believe you. I don't see why the people of Portland should believe you. And at the end of the day, if you're going to tell us 10 years, I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years, but I wouldn't want to push these people any further, honestly. It's kind of ridiculous at this point. I mean, you just had an uprising. You just had a year of protests. It was terrible for y'all to deal with. You had to think about stuff, and you were pushed to deal with things, and some of your stuff got broken, and that's just terrible. But
Okay, you're at 3.
2 minutes? All right. A little bit longer, maybe. All right. Just a little longer.
If there's more time at the end, we'll bring you back up.
Oh, thank you so much. All right. Well, let's just get rid of this enhanced service district thing and this clean and safe thing. Let's do a better job.
Shannon is up next, then Jen, and then Caitlin J. Shannon, Jen Carew, and then Caitlin J.
My name is Shannon. I'm a single mother of 2, a community organizer, and an advocate to folks experiencing domestic and sexual violence. Me and my 2 kids have been providing food support to our houseless neighbors in our immediate area and different parts all over the city. We have run into both Clean and Safe and PDA several different times, and they are really violent. Enhanced service districts do not keep our community safe. Police, whether they be private or not, hold the goal of protecting property and business interests and not protecting the community. Enhanced service districts like Clean and Safe represent the consolidated efforts of private state interests which make invisible the realities of poverty, houselessness, and state repression, which is intentional. That's not reflected in your fancy graphs that were in your PowerPoint presentation, but it's there. They conflate safety and comfort. I wonder what it would look like to fund housing. I wonder what it would look like to fund mental health support. Criminalizing and dehumanizing people living outside is not getting at the root causes of poverty and houselessness. It only furthers to strengthen the prison industrial complex and further ensnare people into the cycles of violence and poverty. I don't know how many different ways and how many different times the city of Portland, our community, can stand up and say, we don't want police. We don't want your fake police. We don't want your private police. We don't want your Portland police. We want money into our community. That's what we want. I want to thank Stop the Sweeps. I want to thank RAP. I want to thank many other mutual aid orgs across the city who are showing up every day to provide the real support that the folks outside need. That is love, that is care, that is empathy, that is food, right? That is not cages, that is not violence, that is not getting your tent picked up and thrown, right? Having your items being moved away. I don't care that folks say that they take their items to a facility. Who's helping people go to that facility to go get their items? Right?
You're out 2 minutes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Caitlin, wait, were you Jen?
Yes.
Okay, so Jen Peru. Okay, Caitlin, then Scout, and then Barbara Weber.
Awesome, yeah. So I am also with everyone who's opposed to the contract renewal for Clean and Safe. We've also listed out a list of demands, because if you do renew the contract, at the very least, we would like to see the removal of private security and Portland police. But I actually want to give a little bit of a history lesson. So I've been researching Clean and Safe and enhanced service districts, and actually business improvement districts across the country for a few years now. And I think you'll notice something unique about these listening sessions is that almost everybody is in opposition to these enhanced service districts, and specifically with Clean and Safe. And I know that Portland Business Alliance Clean and Safe is not used to hearing that. And that has to do with the way of how these ESDs have been formed in the past and renewed in the past. It's often been through committees, and those committees have had the same representatives on it since 1988, really since 1979, when the Association for Portland Progress was created, which would eventually turn into Portland Business Alliance. That committee consisted of the Oregonian Publishing Company. It consisted of Melvin Mark Properties. The formation of the Enhanced Service District in 1994 consisted of PALS. It consisted of the Downtown Development Group, which is the Goodmans, all of which are still represented in Portland Business Alliance and Clean and Safe today. And often when you do hear testimony in favor of Clean and Safe, you're going to be hearing it from these same entities over and over and over again. So really the reason these exist is due to very, very few property owners who happen to own a lot of property in downtown Portland. And they have continued to advocate this, like really since the 60s. In the 1960s, that is when downtown businesses came together to try to create what eventually became Clean and Safe. And over the years, we're hearing from the same people over and over again. And that is why we advocated so hard to have these public listening sessions in the first place, is because you're not hearing from us often. And we're just trying to yell and intervene any way we can, because there's no other opportunity for us to do so. And even these listening sessions, I do have concerns about. I mean, ultimately it's city council who's voting on this, but there's not a single city commissioner here. I know there is some staff from the commissioner's office this year, which thank you, but that isn't enough. You are the decision makers at the end of the day. Portland Business Alliance isn't. I mean, you're paying City Hall to do your bidding, but really we need to have city council here and to listen to these complaints, because this is coming from the community, and I think this is really representative of what Portland feels about these districts and about downtown Clean and Safe. Thank you.
All right, Scout, then Barbara, and then Zoe.
Hi, I'm Scout. I'm going to be reading our demands, the extended edition. So, 1, remove private security patrols from public spaces. End Clean and Safe's contract with Portland Patrol and disallow any future private security contracts with Clean and Safe and all ESDs. 2, remove the ability of enhanced service districts to fund PPB sworn officer positions, end the contract between the Portland Police Bureau and the Portland Business Alliance. This includes removing the 4 fully funded patrols and 2 additional patrols PPD designates at no extra charge. Disallow any contracts between the Portland Police Bureau and ESDs moving forward. 3, remove all public money from ESDs. The City of Portland should not designate any general fund money to ESDs, including the current general fund money being used for the downtown retail advocate position. Exempt the city, the county, and the state from paying ESD fees. 4, remove Portland Business Alliance from Clean and Safe. Disallow Clean and Safe to contract with PBA for management services. 5, put ESD renewals on the ballot for people to actually vote on them if they're operating in the public right-of-way in any way. If ESDs are paying for public space services, the contract cannot be approved unless the public is actually able to vote on it. The vote should not happen solely within city council meetings. 6, get rid of the Downtown Security Network and ESD's partnership with District Attorney's Office. Downtown Security Network, for context, is the monthly secret meeting between all the private security companies and PDA to kind of best discuss how to fuck up people's lives. So disband the Downtown Security Network. This includes no longer allowing the current District Attorney's Office staffer to facilitate the meetings. And any and all contracts, funding, and/or agreements between the District Attorney's Office and ESDs. Disallow any future programs allowing for coordination between private security, Portland Police Bureau, the District Attorney's Office, and other law enforcement agencies through ESDs. 7, create an opt-out or ideally opt-in system for residents and businesses who do not wish to receive the services to not have to pay into ESD. No longer require mandatory fees for ESDs. Property owners can choose to pay into the ESD, but the city can no longer mandate that they pay in. I encourage y'all to check out our website and cleanandsafe.org. Thanks.
Okay, Barbara, then Zoe, and then Reed Wells, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. So Barbara, Zoe, thank you. Were you Barbara? No. You were Zoe. Okay, thank you. So Reed, and then Priya, and then Ben. Okay, thank you. So Reed, Ben, and then Rebecca Ellis.
Hi. I don't have a lot to say. I'm kind of new to this as a movement, but I just want to say it feels pretty ironic to be protecting the private property of these businesses by seizing the private property of the homeless and pouring it around the city. This shifting around a real problem. And John, next time you do that survey, I'd like to see the homeless people who are most affected by this policy survey as well, because I would be very much shocked to see any positive feedback from them. Thank you.
So Ben, then Rebecca, and then, so Ben and Rebecca.
Hello. What I'd like to speak about today is kind of the national context about business improvement districts. I think very often that the city of Portland thinks that they're fighting the war against homelessness by itself. But there's a trend going on in every major downtown where there's a business improvement district, where they lobby and push the same ordinances, the same anti-camping ban laws. Oh yeah. Sorry. And have been coordinating on a national level to oppress homeless people everywhere, right? And they spend money on more policing, and they utilize broken windows ideology in order to make it happen. It's been going on since the Reagan era, using neoliberal tactics in order to make it happen. And it comes out of the birth of sort of the urban gentrification plans of the 80s and the 90s that were very racist, as they eliminated, quote unquote, blight, and pushed black and brown bodies out of the inner corridors of the city, right? And these sort of programs are still in operation now without any oversight. And the audit that was done won a national award because nobody is auditing. None of these cities, from New York to LA, are auditing these business improvement districts. And we're lucky enough to only have 3, right? And there's some of the 3 biggest in the country. But in New York, they have over 80. And LA and San Fran, they They have hundreds and hundreds between them, right? And they spend nearly hundreds of millions of dollars, right? It's direct lobbying to the police department to help finance the removal of people from Skid Row from entities like Echo Park. And they're known through a variety of names, like community benefit districts, for example, and green benefit districts, but they all have the same mechanism of collecting money from property owners in order to extort, harass, and push people out of public spaces and to privatize them. They're doing it, as they say, block by block. So if you're not aware of them now, they're a growing trend, and you're going to be aware of these new privatized police forces that are taking over our cities. Thank you.
Rebecca Ellis. Okay. All right, so is there anyone in person who has wanted to testify and did not check yes or I don't know and has now decided they would like to? All right, I said I would give you another minute, so go ahead. Okay, well, so thank you for the input. Thank you for everyone who participated in today's session. We were recording the session, so while you didn't see me take notes, you will see me watch and record or watch the recording and take your input into our conversation. The next community listening session is this evening. It's virtual only. If you haven't signed up, you are, of course, welcome to join us in that one as well. And as I said, the council hearing is September 23rd, Thursday, September 23rd, from 2 to 5 p.m. If you have any comments that you want to submit in writing, there's paper over at that table. You are also welcome to fill out the form on our website and/or email me directly. My email address was on that slide, but I'm going to say it here. It's Geraldine.Moyle, M-O-Y-L-E, at portlandoregon.gov. My phone number is 503-823-5253 if you prefer to talk in person. And thank you for your time. 503-823-5253. Thank you. So ahead of the city council meeting, documents will be made available, and we'll put some information out on when you can expect to see that. I don't have a deadline right now. A date. Thank you. And for those of you online, thank you for joining us.
Everybody, thanks for joining me here. That all came through pretty good. It's okay. So, I'm going to try to catch and stream the evening listening session. At the very least, I will post information on how to get into it. So, glad for these people to come here and hear their testimony. Yeah, this is fun. Get a view of Chapman Square in here, Justice Center behind it, and Federal Building, Lansdale over there. Okay. Gonna end the stream for now.